Hello, Ride On people. So you join me today for a talk, or should I say a talk? What do I mean by talk? I mean the Torque Optimized Control. What is Torque Optimized Control? Well, it's a map that BMW offer to customers to download onto their M models. Why do they offer that? Well, some customers feel that the standard fuel map that comes with the road bike is too weak in the mid-range, particularly second gear. And this is kind of borne out on dyno charts when you look at a tuning company such as Tune, for instance. When they show a second gear dyno graph chart, you'll see there's quite a chasm in the kind of mid-range revs, you know, kind of 4 to 6k say, and compared with a tuned bike, you know, kind of Tune or race tuned bike, you're giving away 40 or 50 horsepower literally in that second gear in the mid-range. Not so much in other gears, it's a bit more sorted, but whether it's for emissions or another problem, it's there and it exists. So BMW decided to offer another map free of charge to customers, although your dealer may pay, you know, charge you half an hour labour. And I would say that if you're going to have the map applied, try and get it applied while you're having some tyres fitted or some general service on your bike, because all of that time is just download time. So the mechanic's not really doing anything other than plugging in the electronics and saying swap the map over please, and they might then do it for free. However, that's between you and your dealer. If not, expect maybe, I don't know, $75 labour depending on where you live and all that jazz. Anyway, why should you consider it? Well, you ought to consider it if you don't ride at the track, or if you rarely exceed, say, 10,000 RPM on the road. And I was pretty happy with the standard map, both on my MkII and my R, to be honest with you. But what I did was I kind of thought about it, and I thought, do you know what, I can have that applied to my MkII when I'm having some tyres fitted, and looking at the dyno chart, I've got nothing to lose, because you know, between 0 and 10,000 revs on the road, it's making more power and more torque, and it's smoother power delivery. What's not to like about that? Well, what some people won't like is the fact that you know, there's no such thing as a free meal ticket, and by that I mean above 10,000 revs it kind of falls off a cliff, and you're going to lose some top end horsepower and some kudo and bragging rights down the bar, if that matters to you. So instead of knocking out, you know, 205, 210 horsepower, depending on who you're having an argument about it with, it probably knocks it down to maybe 190 or something like that, which personally I think is perfunctory to get you to the grocery store and back, but your change may differ. However, if it doesn't differ, then consider the Torque Optimized Control map. Now, I spoke with Nate Kern, who is a racer for BMW, and he also helps develop road bikes and race bikes for BMW. He's an ambassador for BMW and has been working with Toprak the last year, and now Toprak is going off, having left BMW. But anyway, I digress. Nate is experienced, and he helped develop the Torque Optimized Control tune, and he said to me it's a much better tune for the road. And so what I was seeing on the dyno and what my friend Nate was telling me, it was worthwhile doing. So I had it done, and it seemed to be fuel a little bit better below 4,000 revs, and then from 4,000 revs, the roll-on performance was quite noticeable, particularly where the flat spot was in second gear. I didn't really notice the second gear till one day I was in the mountains and I was overtaking a guy on a fast, large adventure bike on a very short straight, and it was kind of a 90-degree blind bend at the end, so I wanted to get past him quickly, and I had mid-range revs. I was like, maybe 4,000 revs, although this doesn't redline till 14.65, I think. But I had 4 or 5 thou dialed in, and I knocked it down a gear, which was into second from third, and I whacked open the throttle, and I expected to rocket past him like an Exocet missile. Right, it's not a particularly heavy bike. It's got 200 horsepower. I've got big 200 section grippy race rubber on the bike at the time. It's like, it's a win-win. And the whole thing just bogged down, and it made the whole overtaking manoeuvre a little bit sketch. And it was not a close call, but it was enough to concern me. I like to leave big safety margins, and I hope you're listening to me rather than enjoying the view, by the way. And so I thought, I'm going to have that Torque Optimized control tune done. So my tyres were kind of done about 1,800 miles, and I had the map applied. Now, the first time I did a roll-on test was with my friend Steve, who just happens to have an MkII competition as well, and just leapt away from him in second gear, no problem whatsoever. Then after that, we tried it in third, fourth, fifth and sixth. It was a little bit pronounced in third, really nothing in it in fourth, fifth and sixth, and above 100 miles an hour he was able to just pull away from me at will. So he definitely had some top end there once you got up to the very high revs. But it was enough to impress him to have it done on his bike, and then he kind of called it a game changer and was very happy. Another friend also has an MkII competition. He kind of decided to get it done as well after we did, again, roll-on tests. So what we did was exactly the same, kind of second gear, third gear, and we were going to do more tests, but really the first test was enough to convince him straight away. So I think he is he's a very slim fellow, and I would say he's probably a good 70 pounds lighter than I am, maybe even more. But I instantly gapped him in second gear and gained several bike lengths. So that was more than enough for him to say, I'm sold, I'm getting it done on my bikes. And like me, he's also got an M1000R competition as well as an MkII competition. So what's not to like? Well, nothing really. If you have an MkII M bike with 205 horsepower, I would say definitely get it done. So did I get it done to my MR as well? Yes, I did. So I also had it done at on my MR at the 600 mile service. I would say that it wasn't quite as pronounced, and I don't know why. I almost thought they hadn't applied it. And essentially it's the same engine. Obviously it's a lighter bike, so if anything, the performance ought to be leaping like a stallion. And I had to actually go back to my dealership because they'd forgotten to unlock the rev cap. The revs are limited at 8,000 RPM while you're running it in. So I had to go back to have it unlocked, and I said, are you sure this map went through okay? Because I'm not really noticing much difference. And they said, yeah, it definitely went through okay. Anyway, again, I did some roll-on tests with a different friend with an M1000R competition. And I was able to pull away a little bit in second, and arguably a bit in third, but not really much in it. It might have been, I was a bit quicker on the throttle than him, I'm not sure. Wasn't much in it, but it was, I definitely had a slight advantage in second gear. So we're assuming the map was applied and it does have an advantage. And again, he's a little bit lighter than me, that guy. And so is it worthwhile having it done? I would say if you don't go to the track with your bike, or maybe you're just doing one track day a year, possibly two track day a year, you get your kicks out of the cornering and the acceleration rather than terminal speed down the straights, and you're not obsessed with lap times, sure, absolutely, I think it's a no-brainer. I think definitely get it done for sure. It's you know, it costs either nothing if you're having some work done perhaps and you've got a good relationship with your dealer, or you're going to pay half an hour labour maybe, and you know, for the benefit gained, I would say absolutely get it done. And the other key thing I really like about it is, well, you know, some of you will say, well, why don't you just get a Brent tune? Because I'm sure that's even better than the BMW tune. And you'd be correct in terms of the power they claim that tune makes. However, it arguably, and I'm not going to get into arguments about it in the comments, it arguably affects your warranty because you are no longer running an OEM map. And sure, if you get an electrical problem or something and you've got an aftermarket tune on it, it's not going to affect your warranty. But if your engine implodes, it could be on you. And I believe an M engine is $14,000, and it's probably 2 days to fit it in labour, maybe $150 an hour. And then you've got to pay your stamp on that as well. So it could cost you 20 grand, right? If your engine implodes and BMW won't warranty it and you've got to have a new engine. I ain't that rich and I don't want to spend that kind of money. So maybe when it's out of warranty, I'd consider it, you know, if the forums say it's reliable with the tune on. But the TOC tune is a BMW tune, and therefore it is fully warranted for your engine. It's not going to cause any problems whatsoever. You could argue they're even happier about it because in some ways it's in a lower state of tune, a kind of safer state of tune in terms of top end revs. But of course it's, you know, giving a bit more power, giving it the berries a bit in the mid-range. And I think, you know, if you're on the fence about it, another thing to remember is that you can always go back to the original tune, right? It's just as simple as saying to the mechanic, can you put the other tune on? Or I've tried the new tune, I don't like it, I want the old one. But everybody I know who's had the new tune, or the TOC tune, or the Torque Optimized Control tune, to give it its correct nomenclature, and you can actually see that it's even an option to select if you were configuring a bike online, for instance, on the US website at least. I'd say, yeah, everybody I know that has it seems very happy with it, and they all think it's kind of worthwhile, and you know, it's a no-brainer to them. I'll try and show you if I can here. Make sure I've got no traffic in front or behind me, but I'll kind of show you a little bit of roll-on acceleration, if you like. So I'm at 2,000 revs, 3,000 revs. I'll roll it on at 4,000. So you can see how quickly the bike accelerates. It's pretty ample. I wasn't quite at full throttle there. It's not like a private runway or something, so I have to be a little bit careful. But it's ample. It is very ample, and I'm pretty happy with the tune overall. It means that those second gear roll-on overtakes, there's ample power. Yes, you still feel a bit of a kick at the top end. There's a lot more power being pulled on at the top end, but in the kind of lower mid-range, it's just it smooths that little bit fueler, and it's got that little bit more pep to it. So definitely worthwhile. Now I could end the video there by saying, you know, if you have an M bike, just get the tune. It's a done deal. But two other things I want to mention. One, can you get the same tune for a non-M bike, a standard MkII, a standard S model? not to my knowledge, because that would be technically increasing their power, I believe, because for 25 I think they're at 180 horsepower, and this might be giving it slightly more horsepower than that. Maybe, I don't know. You probably have to talk with your dealer about that, and to be honest with you, your dealer probably wouldn't know. Maybe if I bump into Nate Kern, I'll ask him about that and see whether low on fuel. I'll ask him about that and see whether he has any insider knowledge about it as such. So, why am I not ending the video there? Well, the interesting thing is, we wanted to see how the MkII competition with the Torque Optimized Control Tune and the M1000R competition with the Torque Optimization Control Tune compared with the standard S and MkII models. And we're just so fortunate in that our entire group has all of those bikes at hand. So my team and I were able to kind of, test that out in roll-ons, and it was frankly very interesting. So again, with the MkII, guy a little bit lighter than me, or a fair bit lighter than me, but maybe 50 pounds, 60 pounds on the MkII, he definitely pulled away from me. Not massive amounts, but he could pull away from me usually irrelevant of gear, second, third, fourth. He'd pull a bike or sometimes two bikes lengths ahead. Now, it might have slightly standard, different gearing, might have different fueling, different fuel mat, but it definitely produces less power, and yet acceleration, where it kind of really matters, let's call that kind of 40 to 80 miles an hour, the standard bike is quicker than the MkII. Bearing in mind the MkII, my one with the Torque Optimized Control Tune, is quicker than the standard MkII competition. So that was quite eye-opening. But I think even more eye-opening was that my friend with the 2025 S1000R was faster than everything. It's faster than my MR competition, faster than my friend's MR competition. This is a non-TOC tune, mine is the TOC tune, but very noticeable, particularly again second, third gear, that S1000R could pull away at will, and that kind of speaks volumes, really. So we kind of get obsessed with having the top draw bike, right? If we want an M bike, we want M competition, we want an RS model, it's got to be, on the top suspension, top brakes, and top engine performance, and all the rest of the stuff. But in actual fact, where most of us ride on the road 40 to 80 miles an hour, often the standard bike is quicker, because it's geared for that rev range. It's not geared for, doing 160 miles an hour down the straights, and it's not tuned for that. It's tuned for the real world. Probably even gives better fuel economy. And in that 40 to 80 magic zone, it's got it all going on in terms of roll-on performance and, throttle response. Now, interestingly again, back in the real world, you've seen today I've been tooling around at 4,000 RPM, 50 miles an hour, having to slow it down in places where, like here, we've got a speed limit of 35. You've got to be a little bit respectful of that, at least. In these scenarios, again, whether you've got fancy down Öhlins suspension or electronic suspenders, might not do you the world of good, because sometimes with race suspension like Öhlins and the top draw Showa, they can be pretty hard. And sure, when you're going like a bat out of hell, when you're bouncing off the rev limiter, when you're getting your knee down in the mountains, it's your rock. It's solid. It's not going to do anything unpredictable, and it's really going to handle on rails. But everywhere else, it can literally be a pain in the ass. Now, the standard bike, with its kind of, run-of-the-mill suspension and less adjustment, maybe it's running Mazukis or something. Maybe you've got Tokiko brakes instead of Brembo monoblocks. They might just be a lot more forgiving. The suspension might be that much more cushiony and comfortable over bumps. The brakes may be just that little bit more progressive and less, unpredictable or sharp, but still suffice to do the job, haul you up. And then when you're in that 40 to 80 zone, you might be getting better fuel economy and having more comfort. So who's the wise investor and who's having the most fun? It certainly makes you think, doesn't it? Makes you consider. I, for one, I kind of mentioned it in my last video where I was talking about, is the MR too much for the road? I don't think MkII or the MR is too much for the road. It doesn't really matter whether you have 200 or 300 horsepower. The throttle goes both ways, right? It's whether you want it, you love the look of it, you love the feel of it, you love knowing that if you have to use power to get out of danger, it's on tap. And if you worked hard all your life and you've got the money and you want to buy something that looks and feels really special when you open the garage door, who am I to say don't buy it? I bought 2 M bikes this year for sure. But I would say the smart money is on buying a regular middleweight road bike, a good all-rounder. Something like a Triumph Tiger 800 would be fantastic, right? 11 to 12 grand. It's got about 115, 20 horsepower. It's comfortable, stops well, handles well, practical, looks pretty decent, isn't going to break the bank. That's the smart money. That's a smart buy. Buy something like that and you'll be very happy. I think for me next time, even though I love my M's, I'm not intending to sell them quickly or anything like that, but I think if I was buying again with hindsight, and that's part of the reason why we do these YouTube videos, right, to share a personal point of view so that you can make an informed decision about, based on your own research and your own experience and the feedback from people that you trust in terms of reviews online. I would say personally I would probably go with middleweights next. I think maybe if I was going back to one bike, I'd maybe buy a third Multistrada V4S. I like what they've done for 2025, the auto lowering suspension, the cylinder deactivation at low speeds. It's just a nice developed, good looking, all round, sporty, comfortable, practical package. And as all-rounders go, I'd probably choose that over another GS. Maybe my view is a bit sullied because my last GS had multiple recalls and left me by the side of the road 3 times. However, if I was replacing my 2 vehicles with 2 other vehicles, and I tend to think of my vehicles as my MR as my summer fun sports bike, and this is my kind of 3 seasons practical, more comfortable all-rounder bike, I think I would then go for the so-called middleweights, which used to be called big bikes when I was young, the kind of 800 to 1000cc segment. If I just wanted practicality and one all-rounder, I'd maybe go for an Africa Twin DCT. If I wanted an all-rounder, one bike with sportiness, a Multistrada V4S. And for me, if I wanted 2 bikes to feel that sportiness and that all-rounderness, I'm pretty impressed with the new V-twins from Ducati actually. Clean sheet, lightweight, very powerful, modular. They're going in a ton of different bikes, from the Street Fighter, the Multistrada V2S, the Panigale V2S already, and next of course will be the Monster, then the what they call it, the X adventure bike, the Rally X, and then it will be eventually the Scramblers, I guess. And so that engine has to be bulletproof, and it's lost nearly 40 pounds of weight. And having ridden the bike with that engine, I know it's got ample performance for the road. It sounds nice, it feels nice, and it's very characterful and engaging. So I'd be happy with a couple of bikes with that engine, to be honest with you. And that for me would probably be a Multistrada V2S. Even though it's significantly more expensive than the Tiger, it fixes the things that annoy me about the Tiger, in terms of things like having a proper TFT screen, for instance, or a decent size windshield, or I can't think what the other thing is, but the kind of general look and feel, it is that much more premium. But of course you are paying a much more premium price. I think if trying to bring out an RS Tiger with a lot of the problems like better brakes and better TFT, that would put that back on my radar, I think. So I'd probably go for the all-rounder, the Multistrada V2S, and I would probably go with the Panigale V2S as my sports bike. Again, it's got it all happening in the kind of 50 to 80 or even 100 zone on the road. On the track, sure, you're going to have R1s or whatever come past you on the straights, but you'll have them in the corners, and you'll be the one with the biggest smile on your face when you get back to the pits. It's definitely good enough to do track days on, and if you decide you're doing more and more track days, they do the race package. Plus there is an R model coming out which will probably have that race package as standard, right? But I really like the standard V2S, and with a few mods such as the Terminonis to drop the weight by 10 to 12 pounds and up the horsepower by 10 to 12, or six, actually I think it's 6, something like that. You have a fabulous all-round sporty road bike that is, around 400 pounds in weight, curb, sounds nice, looks nice, warranted exhaust system, and yeah, I'd probably end up with something like that, really. But anyway, I've waffled on a little bit here. What I really meant for this video was to get across the Torque Optimized control findings, and pretty interesting. If you've got a BMW M model and you don't go to track days, or when you do you don't go mad, I'd highly recommend you get the TOC tune. And if you are thinking of buying a bike and wondering whether it's worth spending the extra money for the power, and you're going to be riding on the road, I would think again, because the standard MkII and the standard SR definitely accelerate quicker in the real world. It's just that you don't get all that lovely carbon fibre, you don't get the M brakes, you haven't got quite the quality of suspension. So again, it's a compromise of how hard you ride. You've got to be honest with yourself. If you ride at a regular pace, maybe sportily, the standard bike is more than adequate. But if you want to do track days, or you like going mental now and then, you've got to get yourself an M. But get the TOC tune. Alright, signing off. Have a good one. I'm off to England for a week, and I will see you when I get back. Bye.